It is said that everything that has a beginning must also have an end. This statement is currently playing out in the relation between Niger and the United States. When the US started investing and building military bases in Niger, never did the military officials think that there would come a day when they would be told to leave. If you have been following this news from the beginning, one thing that you would observe is that Niger has always been regarded as one of the last nations in the Sahel that the West, particularly the United States, could depend on. However, the entrance of the military junta, General Tiani, into the scene dashed that notion, and today, relations with the West are gradually fizzling out. The most recent news on ground is that the US military has finally handed the last base known as Airbase 201, located in the city of Agadez, Niger, to the authorities in Niger. This base was one of the two crucial hubs for American counterterrorism operations in the country. The handing over of Airbase 201 in the city of Agadez came after the US troops withdrew earlier this month from Airbase 101, a small drone base in Niger's capital of Niamey. According to the joint statement released by officials of both countries, the US withdrawal from Airbase 201 in the city of Agadez was complete a month earlier than a previous prediction. Recall that the agreement was that the US troops have until September 15th to leave the Sahel country. According to Sabrina Singh, the Pentagon spokeswoman, there are about 24 American soldiers who remain in Niger, largely for administrative duties related to the withdrawal, and they are located at the US Embassy. The joint statement further added that American troops left the base in good condition and in an improved state of defense. During the handover ceremony, which was held on August 5th, Niger's Chief of Army Staff, Colonel Mamane Sani, said, "This withdrawal started on May 19, 2024, and is coming to an end today with a ceremony to hand over installations in the presence of officials from both countries, marked by the departure of the last C, 17 Globemasters, and 3 of the U.S. Air Force." As stated by Colonel Mamane, the withdrawal of the U.S. troops in Niger began in May after negotiations between Niamey and Washington, since the July 2023 coup led to the military junta seeking a full exit. General Tiani, through his spokesman, announced to the shock of the world that it had ended the status of force agreement, which allowed the U.S. military to settle in the country. You see, the U.S. military has been in Niger since 2012, and they established 2 military bases. One is known as Airbase 101 in Niamey, and another is known as Airbase 201 in Agadez, which was built 6 years ago and is regarded as the most expensive U.S. base in Africa. The U.S. government spent millions of dollars outfitting the base, and according to the commander of the U.S. Africa Command, if this base is lost, then the U.S. would lose its eyes and ears in the Sahel. Essentially, this base is very important to the U.S. military because it is its spy base for West Africa. However, if the base was truly important to the United States, then maybe they should have been more respectful in their dealing with the authorities in Niger. But then again, the U.S. military probably thought that the current authorities in Niger were similar to the previous ones who were puppets and would readily sell the country to them in exchange for monetary benefits. However, as the commander of the U.S. Africa Command came to later realize, the military leaders of not just Niger, but Mali and Burkina Faso are sophisticated and different from the democratically elected leaders who can be easily swayed. These guys value and prize the sovereignty of their country above all else, and are ready to forego any relationship with any country regardless of whatever benefit that country wants to offer. This is exactly what happens between Niger and the United States. The U.S. military officials came to that meeting with their usual superiority mindset, thinking that if they said jump, the authorities in Niger would say how high. But they got the shock of their lives. The U.S. officials demanded that Niger end diplomatic relations with Russia and Iran if they want the U.S. military to remain in the country, as if the U.S. military had anything to offer Niger. In response, the authorities in Niger decided to end the military agreement and told them to get out. According to General Tiani, Niger forcefully denounces the condescending attitude of the U.S., accompanied by the threat of retaliation from the head of the American delegation towards the Nigerian government and people. Shocked by the response of Niger, the US officials started finding ways to ensure that they would remain in Niger. But nothing worked, and they had to accept that it was over. And then they announced that they have agreed to leave Niger as if it was a choice. Now, the United States is not the only Western country that is withdrawing from Niger. Recently, the German Minister of Defense announced plans to relocate its personnel and equipment from its transport base located in Niamey by August 31st. The base was initially established in 2016 to support the United Nations Multi-Dimensional Integrated Stabilization Mission in Mali, popularly called MINUSMA. However, after Mali kicked out MINUSMA in 2023, the base was operated at a reduced capacity. It was used as a transport base for operations to evacuate German nationals in Africa. In a statement released to the public, Germany stated that the decision comes amidst a reassessment of its military cooperation with Niger, citing security concerns and the expiration of the current interim agreement governing the base. The interesting thing is that at the end of May, Germany and Niger had reached an interim agreement allowing the Bundeswehr to continue operating the air transport base in the capital, Niamey, until the end of August. However, negotiations to extend that agreement broke down, notably because the base's personnel would no longer benefit from immunity from prosecution. What this means is that Niger refused to grant immunity to German soldiers if they broke the law. That is, they will be prosecuted in Niger if they ever broke the law. The German military didn't like that part of the demand, so they opted to leave Niger totally. Well, that's good news because their presence in Niger was not helping the insecurity. They were just occupying space, just like the US military, whose presence in Niger did not help to alleviate the crisis. Despite the withdrawal of the German forces, the German government has stated that it intends to continue bilateral training assistance with Niger on a limited capacity, with a focus on non-lethal areas such as medical services, transport, maintenance, and logistics. In addition, injured and disabled Nigerian soldiers will continue to receive treatment from German hospitals. This means Germany is still much interested in developing and deepening diplomatic relations with Niger. Well, regardless of their decision, all foreign-based dismantling and leaving Niger is good news. Why? Let's think about it critically. The US and France had more than 2,500 military personnel in the region until recently, and together with other European countries, had invested hundreds of millions of dollars in military assistance and training. Yet, with all their intelligence, super military equipment and resources, these countries could not help Niger eradicate the insecurity in the country. Instead, reports and research revealed that as the presence of foreign military bases increased, the insecurity and number of jihadist groups also increased. This means that there is a correlation between the number of foreign bases and the number of jihadist groups in Niger. So, what then is the need for their presence in the country? Every Western report say that the presence of Western bases in Niger and the Sahel region is for counterterrorism purposes. But if that were true, then terrorism would not have spread while they were there. The honest fact is that the US and other Western military are not there to help the nations of the Sahel fight terrorism. They are there to showcase their military might and influence, gather intelligence regarding that regio that would serve their interests, have access to critical minerals, and ensure that the insurgency attacks remain in the Sahel and not spread to the West. This is the truth. Right now, people are saying that there is a security vacuum in Niger because the US military has left the country, but that is a lie. There has always been a security vacuum in Niger, even with the presence of Western troops. The military junta understands this, and that is why he decided to kick them out and bring in someone that can help, Russia. The West can say whatever they like about the junta's choice of help, but it's far better than depending on people that do not care. What are your thoughts? Let us know in the comments section below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video.